This just means it'll be a really good show because we made Ryan work for it.
We don't give it up that easy.
Never gonna give you up.
Never gonna bring you down. Can you hear in your ear headphones what we're doing?
Yeah.
And we're gonna start the pod. It's gonna take forever.
No, don't use this in the...
And time me down and give us money on Patreon.
No.
That was pretty funny.
Was it?
Oh, we get a lot of shots. Everybody come to the net. We just have to get more and more pucks to the net.
Pucks on net. Pucks on net.
Putting pucks on net. We used to talk about in Vancouver getting pucks on net.
What were you saying about putting pucks on net?
Continue to put pucks on net.
Pucks on net!
Put pucks on net and get lucky sometimes.
Pucks on net and driving and making a hard night on it.
Live on tape from Geeta's apartment, or palatial estate on the 23rd floor. This is Pucks on Net, a Vancouver hockey podcast that doesn't talk about fantasy or fancy stats. We're watching a little bit of Wheel of Fortune here. Screwed up the intro like I do once or twice a month. Got the right audio input. We're having a great time. Geeta, you having a good time?
I think so. Ryan is telling me I am having a good time.
I'm holding up a sign, a placard that says, "You are having a good time." P Mac, you having a good time over there?
Just blink.
Yeah, I mean, you did just... you didn't mean to do this, but you just gestured like a finger across your throat. And I'm a little concerned right now.
Nothing. The door's locked, but I mean, it's not like anything you got to worry about, right?
I don't even know.
Why don't you just have a great...
We're at the palatial estate.
Yeah, or wherever that may be. Nobody knows. Nobody needs to know. All you need to know at home is that these people are having a great time. I'm having a great time. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight, Paul.
Yes.
What are we going to talk about, Paulie?
Hockey.
That's right, Paul. And Geeta, what are we going to talk about tonight?
When did we end up in the Columbus Blue Jackets locker room?
That was very funny. We'll go right into the intro. My name's Ryan. I'll be your delightful host for the evening as we bring this mother back around to a lively show. Riding to my immediate left.
Shotgun.
You already referenced us.
I introduce on the show. Just like,
oh, yeah, we're here again.
Just like Johnny Tortorella, because there's so many new faces in their locker room. The best way to fix that chemistry and get it back to normal is how everybody introduces themselves. Do we want to do that?
Oh, I'm so-and-so, and I like blah, blah, blah. Like that?
Everyone had to go around the room and state their name, hometown, and one fun fact about themselves at the Blue Jackets practice like last Thursday. My name's Ryan. I'm from Abbotsford. And a fun fact about myself... What's a fun... I don't have a gallbladder. And
okay. Wow, that's fun.
And when I was a child, I was born cross-eyed.
Okay. My name is Geeta.
Hi, Geeta.
Hi, I'm from Vancouver. A fun fact about me is I do a weekly hockey podcast.
And you, sir?
My name's John. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts.
Yes, pronounced.
And I like dogs.
What kind of dogs?
All of them.
Do you
More than people.
Okay. Speaking of John.
That was actually audio from the Columbus Blue Jackets practice when they got around the circle. He didn't start it. It was one of the assistant coaches. He didn't sound too happy about it. Sorry, Geeta.
Who are all you people?
That's really funny. I got into a cab this week. You know how those are hard to come by this weekend.
Yep.
And halfway through the ride, I was just heading to Gastown. My cab driver turns to me and he's like, "Are you John Lau?" And he was very angry because he had picked up the wrong fare.
So you said yes.
Yes, I am.
They spelled it wrong. It's Joan Lau. Well, Joan and John, I want to thank you for joining me, and I want to thank the listeners for joining us wherever they got us from.
Oh, the Invisible Man.
Yeah, he's listening too.
We have to turn this off, Geeta. That's your last warning. Unless you're talking about Louis Erickson.
Whoa! That's a knee slapper
Sorry.
right there.
I feel like we've made up to Ryan for whatever mess he caused earlier.
There was no mess. It was all me. The egg on my face from public embarrassment. I want to thank you for joining us, wherever you guys are. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at PucksOnNetCA or PucksNetCa. And if you want to support the show monetarily, head on over to patreon.com/PucksOnNet, where you can pledge a couple of bucks. Basically $5 a month is
I
what
think
we
you should start off by talking about the Crow.
Marc Crawford. Okay, so the year, patreon.com/PucksOnNet. The year was 2013, and it was the first annual Pucks on Net Christmas party. And a young Joan Lau, also known as Geeta, was making her case that Marc Crawford should make his way off Team 1040 radio and back into the NHL. And everybody's the podcast's cool stepdad, Jeff, wondered why. So here we are.
Oh my gosh.
4.5 years later. When I cut all the highlights for the Christmas party episode, I learned a lot about us. Geeta has willed Marc Crawford's way back to a head coaching job. How do you feel today?
We should start putting money on some stuff.
He, like you made the very obvious or the very funny joke that if you're a former Canucks head coach, chances are you are an interim head coach in the NHL these days.
Yeah, that's true.
Is Travis Green an interim head coach?
No.
His team has played its way there. Played him there.
But it's funny, Marc Crawford came into power. First thing he does, he goes in the general manager's office. He goes, hey, I coached in Germany for a while. I don't know if you heard. And this amazing youngster was playing for me. Stone Matthews.
What do we got to do to get him?
You need to get him before he really breaks out in the NHL. And bring in Alex Burrows as my assistant. And those are the two things he requested, and neither came true. So he's on the verge of quitting that Ottawa Senators
I
team.
bet we could help him out, though.
Next thing you know, Ken Hitchcock's going to be coaching the Ottawa Senators. They need somebody for the last 10 games of the regular season.
You know, Alex Burrows might make a good assistant to Crow because he'll like throw a fit and kick a player on the bench and then storm into his office. And after that happens, Burrow will still be in the room and kind of everyone will be like looking at each other and he'll be like, hey, you.
Wait, is that Crow talking to Burr?
Thomas Chabot.
What Burr you thinking up
What
there?
were you I'm going to kick. And they all burst out laughing and it'll change it'll lighten the mood in the Senators' room.
But that will enrage Marc Crawford even more, where it's like, Burr, what are they getting so mad? They're laughing at us. They should be afraid of us. I don't know, Mark.
It's a strategy, though, because Mark can be as terrible as he wants if he knows the players are being, patted on the back as soon as he leaves the room. It's the balance thing.
That's a puppet show I want to see.
Brent Sopel, I'm going to kill you. Was probably an actual quote from his time in Vancouver. Let's be honest. And then he kicked him in the fanny.
Sounds like a guy Eugene Melnick would like having run on his team.
I love the working title of this rundown, which is never usually the same one, but this is episode 216, the 145th episode of PON making fun of the Senators.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
Oh, every little week there's something little new.
No, I know that.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't see it today as we make fun of the Ottawa Senators.
You're like looking down. I didn't even see this rundown here. How long have we had these for?
What's this?
So last week I was sitting around, I'm like, Guy Boucher's still got to be the head coach of the Ottawa Senators. He's doing a fine job for what he's got there and what.
Yeah.
And then I turn on the TV on Friday morning and we fired Guy Boucher 48 hours after our rink plans have fallen through, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense.
And didn't Monday they say we're dedicated to him as our head coach?
I believe I have a quote here. Pierre
There you
Dorion,
go.
Guy is our coach. I don't think anyone will disagree with me on this one, that I've probably made his job pretty difficult the last few weeks, and we're going to Sabordo. Guy, everything we said on Monday, listen, things change, pal. It's just not cutting the mustard anymore.
So you're saying Eugene Melnick came down and told him, "What are you doing? You can't say we're going to keep the coach. I hate what the team's doing right now. Losing?
Losing?
Losing is the worst. I hate losing arenas. I hate losing hockey games. Fire him."
They told...
How many arenas have they lost?
I would cast, if anyone's seen Chris Morris on the IT crowd as the angry boss who freaks out about things unexpectedly and irrationally, I imagine Eugene Melnick's like that.
Well, I heard stories on Hockey Central on Fridays on the radio show they do, Ask a GM. They do Berkey and McLean.
Okay.
And they had told these stories that they had heard secondhand. But they were losing a game, and apparently Eugene Melnick made 24 phone calls from the time Brian Murray left the press box down to the dressing room to fire that head coach. And he didn't fire the head coach.
I mean, he's essentially coaching an AHL roster at this point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we don't watch, I assume, I don't watch enough Senators games to really know.
Where's Dave when you need him for the Senators
if
report?
If the coach is making that big a difference, but just from what I've seen, it's more, there's good pieces there,
right?
And then they had a few really good pieces. They're all gone. So now you're working with a few potentially good pieces that you're going to be building up for a few. There's nothing there. Why would you be winning games?
It's a great opportunity to reboot.
Exactly.
With a Marc Crawford.
Get a fresh young idea man in there like Marc Crawford. I'll show you how we did it back in '96. I didn't really coach. I just yelled at people. They figured it out.
It worked for them.
Joe was a great leader. He it's just very it's very comical the week they have, because they have these weeks where nothing happens.
We're only a week from the trade deadline, aren't we?
Yeah, maybe Eugene forgot that they traded all those guys. I'm not sure, but unless they were
he's been watching Blue Jackets games all week and going, "Oh, these guys can't win a game."
I hate to change the subject, but I'm looking across the way, and that guy looks like he's wearing a Winnipeg Jets jersey. No, he's wearing a Toronto Maple Leafs jersey. I think that's a Mitch Marner Toronto Maple Leafs jersey.
Ryan's looking at somebody who's about 2 blocks away in a window.
No, but they're watching the Leafs Flames game, which is on blackout, so they have NHL Game Center. You think they could give us their password?
Just get some binoculars.
My first thought was a Nick Patan Jets jersey, who is now a Toronto Maple Leaf, and he had his big moment on Hockey Night in Canada. He scored a goal.
Mm-hmm.
A goal in his first game as a Leaf.
Yeah, but it was overshadowed because of Kids Gloves, Toronto Maple Leaf fans, and their...
oh, right. Standing ovations and...
I didn't like that.
It got weird and uncomfortable-ish.
I didn't watch it.
I didn't watch it either.
They announced him last so that he would have a nice long standing ovation.
Did he need it simply because he got booed somewhere?
No, and it didn't make a lot of sense. It reminded me of when the Canucks fans held that rally in support of Todd Bertuzzi after the Steve Moore incident downtown.
That's a bit of a different situation.
Well, I'm like, do we need this? Is it necessary that we feel this way?
But everyone was saying, making jokes about it, saying, Tavares must have such thin skin. And from what I saw of it, the little highlight pack stuff, it was more for the fans than it was for John Tavares.
Do those fans have thin skin?
It's a little bit of that, but it's...
They should be used to suffering and being hated.
It's more of a reaction to just... I don't know, the Islanders thing.
The Islanders really got under their skin. Imagine if they play each other in the playoffs.
Which could happen, actually, the way things are going.
It was kind of fun, but at the same time, I don't know. It's still, we talked about this 2 weeks ago, and John Tavares put up with a lot of garbage for a lot of years in New York and never said anything bad.
Right.
And waited until he didn't request a trade, waited until he was a free agent, and left for his hometown, and they're making fun of him for that. But we're based in Vancouver, and I know a lot of our listeners are in Vancouver. So, like, take it back when there were some, like, big Vancouverites in the league, like a Joe Sakic or a Paul Kariya or something. Imagine if they get to their late 20s, 30-ish, and decide, I'm going back to Vancouver, wish Colorado or Anaheim, whoever, wish them well, come to Vancouver.
Well, it's a reverse situation because they refuse to come here any opportunity they have.
Yeah,
The Canucks weren't good then.
They're smart guys.
Just throwing up a theoretical situation, or on the other side of it, if somebody on your team of choice leaves, like, would you
that's happened
want to act
lots.
that way?
It's not like when Ryan Kessler left, where he demanded a trade.
Yeah.
He had a horrible reputation around town. And
Is it like when Pavel Bure left?
No, because Pavel Bure held out and demanded a trade. This is a guy going, hey, these 10 years have been great. We worked really hard together.
My commitment's done here.
It would be
I'm
like
going
if
home.
Trevor Linden left.
Yeah, well, if Trevor Linden left, what?
For the Flames?
Yeah, for the Flames right in the Messier year.
Sure.
But we wouldn't have blamed him for that either, because it was the Messier year.
Well, we would have blamed him eventually. And then, like 3 weeks later, we're like, oh, shit. We shouldn't have said all that stuff on AM radio.
I saw it more. It was more about the fan bases than the players on the ice.
Yeah.
And I did think it was dumb in New York. Like, on one hand, it's entertaining.
Right.
And if that's what they want to do, I'm not going to tell them they can't. But just as an objective sort of outsider, I don't care one way or the other. It just seemed like,
especially
they're just a bunch of whiners, and they've got a great team on the ice.
They have a fantastic team and a great season.
It's just, I don't know, left a bad taste in my mouth. So when I saw the Toronto thing, it was more just like the Toronto people wanting to, like, counter that weird New York experience with their own, like, thanks for coming to Toronto. Toronto hasn't had a lot of luck attracting players like that for 20 years? 30 years? Like, they want to show them that they're grateful, and I didn't get the hate on John Tavares.
It was just wimpy. I found it wimpy. And I'm like, I agree.
Because the fan base got protective.
And it reminded me of our fan base when somebody would say something bad about the Sedins. Except we never gave them a standing ovation. We just said it quietly and then went to the games pretty quietly. And then when they retired, we're like, shit, we should have said how much we really liked him when we had the chance.
Should have stood up more.
Yeah, we should. Yeah. But I just thought it was a little, and I try not to be too opinionated or editorial on the Pucks on Net Twitter, but it reminded me of a smothering helicopter parent. You're beautiful. You're special. Don't let the mean kids at school tell you otherwise. You're unique, and you're going to do great things.
That's like pro sports, though, man. Like, I know that was pointing out one guy after a very specific other situation, but, like, Boston's very much like that with Brad Marchand when everybody throws him under the bus for doing stupid shit. And then they're like, Brad Marchand is a future NHL Hall of Famer, and he puts up all these points, and you're a bunch of idiots.
And he's a good boy.
And that I'm not trying to poop on Boston. I'm just picking one guy that came off the top of my head that takes a lot of crap, and people stand up for him all the time. Like, everybody like this around the league, and every fan base.
It's grandstanding. It's not to poop on the Boston Bruins, but we're gonna when Zdeno Chara. That's another segment. I was pissed off about that.
We can talk about that now. We're pretty much done Tavares.
Well, I
want
our favorite. If you didn't know this, our favorite Instagram follow. 75% of the podcast is on Instagram, and 100% of those 75% have a favorite Instagram follow, and it's our man Sean Avery. If you haven't gone out and read his book, I'm waiting to slide into the DMs because
don't tell everybody.
No, because everybody got him. He was on other podcasts
okay.
this week, and I'm like, I gotta sit back. I gotta pick my moment.
Yeah.
And that's when I slide in.
Yeah.
And I say, hey, Sean, I really like you, and I think you're cool, and I like your jacket without a collar on it. But that's what is this thing on?
You're turning really red.
Is this microphone on? Anyway, here's Sean Avery sounding off on Instagram if you haven't seen it yet, and it was fantastic. I hope I have a cue this up right.
Fucking dump.
Oh, sorry.
With those shitty. All right, if you don't want to hear me talk about hockey, then hit mute. Fucking New York Islander fans. calling John Tavares a snake, throwing snakes on the ice. Who the fuck are they kidding? That guy played 10 years in that fucking dump with those shitty fans. Didn't say a word, was a great captain, never got arrested. Didn't say fucking boo. You losers want to ruin his night coming back to play for you guys. What was he supposed to do? Lie during the season? Or was he supposed to give the answer that all athletes give when they know they're not coming back to a team? You fucking greasy Islander fucks. You guys get out cheered in your own barn by Ranger fans every time the Rangers play the Islanders in Long Island. Fuck you. I have one friend who's an Islander fan, Kevin Connolly. And I don't even know if he's from fucking Long Island. I think he's from Queens.
We got a handful. We got some very long time Pucks on Net listeners that are Islanders fans.
Yeah.
Andrew from the Bronx. We don't necessarily agree with Mr. Avery's comments. We think you're a fantastic fan base, passionate, and please.
Well, and that's another thing too. It's not all the fans in on the island are doing this. People like to say all sorts of things about Vancouver hockey fans.
No, Sean Avery's played there a lot.
All right, there you go. Maybe he's got more experience. But like, I just mean,
how many Islanders road games have you played?
we hate on a certain segment of the Vancouver sports fan. You talk about people bring up the riots in 2011, and then people are quick to say it wasn't everybody. It was the people that took the SkyTrain into town. Like, every fan base has a group of people that just like to go and start shit. Like,
unless you're Habs fans.
It was just a bunch of people from New Jersey.
Yeah, it was a bunch of. Remember, the mayor was on the news. It was. It was
Chris Christie was there.
Yeah, no, but unless and that applies to every fan base except for Habs fans. So they'll just burn that town down they lose a playoff series. Or Flyers fans, for that matter. God bless them.
Yeah, I don't know. I told the story, I think it was just last week, when the Isles were in town, and I walked into the arena with a old long-time Isles fan. Great guy, long conversation, super nice, just talking about good stuff around the NHL. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's the type of guy that would throw a plastic snake or a real snake
You
at
don't
John
know
Tavares.
what people have in them.
Yeah.
I guess not. I wasn't sitting with him during the game.
I could,
he didn't seem the type, and I'm sure not everyone's quite as vindictive.
Well, it's like when Ryan Kessler returned, first game, I was there with disgruntled former employee Sheila. I had a snake wrapped around my midsection, and security confiscated. It was a real snake. It was non-venomous or non-lethal. But so, you like, do they have it in them? I'm a bit of a voice of reason on this show sometimes, and I got it in me. I'll throw a snake at Ryan Kessler.
Okay.
Paul is very disappointed with you.
A snake. of all the things.
All of God's creatures.
I don't even know what it's like to be a fan at hockey games anymore. I sit and have to watch games in silence now.
You do. Well, you're
do you secretly applaud, like, in your head?
No, I don't really. It's weird. I definitely have grown to just appreciate good stuff that no matter who does what on either side of the ice, I will say, like, whoa, or something like that, or we'll talk about it, the few of us in the row. But it is weird. It changes your mentality. Even when I go and sit in the crowd now, it's not my first instinct to jump up and cheer or anything. I just want to go, oh, that was good.
Yeah, there was a polite golf clap when Paul and I were at the World Juniors games. Mm-hmm. And when
I think I stood up when a couple of goals went in, but most of them probably I was just like, oh, that was impressive.
And at the Canucks game we all went to, there was a Jonah Hill fist bump like a Moneyball. Silent but effective. So I was really pissed off at the NHL and Zdeno Chara last week. And
what did he do?
He elbowed Evander Kane right in the face, and I'm pretty sure that we all saw that. Paul, can you confirm an elbow to the nose region of Evander Kane's face?
I only watched the replay. I guess I saw it from a couple angles once. The elbow was in that area, and you did bring up, like, was it a bad hit, or is it just because Zdeno Chara is 10 stories high?
His elbows are in a different place as compared to everybody else.
I don't think so, because he still would have probably. I mean, Zdeno Chara's on skates like 8.5 feet tall, and Evander Kane.
Well, here's the other side of that is if you are that big, you still have to pay attention to the
You
rules.
always do.
You don't
Just
get an
like,
exception.
It's the same way they tell you to be aware of where your stick is at all times.
Yeah, so you're at that height, and it doesn't mean you can't throw hits. You might have to be a little more careful than other players, but you're still going to have a huge advantage.
Yeah.
Just being that much bigger anyway.
So was Kane validated, vindicated, and what was it right what he did, how he responded?
I don't recall if there was a penalty on the play.
I don't think there was.
But when a guy hits you in the face like that with an elbow, yeah, you go after him, and it's Zdeno Chara. If Kane can get any retaliation in before that bear wakes up and just throws him around the end zone,
it did look like a bear just pawing at
well, yeah,
a honey pot or something. I don't know.
that was the post game, but I love it, Evander Kane, because I mean. Zdeno Chara, he gets this reputation where it's like, yes, he's so big and he's so strong that he could kill anybody out there, and he doesn't. And then on I forget who makes that joke that he should win the Ted Lindsay or what's the sportsmanship, the Lady Bing, that he should win the Lady Bing every year for just controlling his strength. But I thought it was bullshit, and then there was no call, there was nothing from player safety, which I thought was pretty ridiculous. And then I really liked Evander Kane's his memeing. He hit the NHL where it hurt. Did you see them?
I haven't seen them, but I've heard of them.
He went a little old school, a little elementary school with 3 blind mice animated GIF.
Yeah.
And then he subtweeted where he's like, he used the Bird Box blindfold emoji, and it's like, I just saw Bird Box, very disturbing movie, or something along those lines. So I loved it. But last week I got on a bit of a politically charged soapbox on Twitter where I was looking at how Sportsnet promoted it on YouTube, and it upset me because on YouTube it was like Chara Reigns' Fist of Fury after being jumped by Evander Kane.
Yeah, I saw you responding to that.
And normally this doesn't upset me, but I desperately was trying to find. I couldn't find a San Jose call of that fight, but on the Nesson feed, Jack Edwards, who is the biggest homer in the league, and for the most part, he's quite entertaining and he's quite enjoyable. And he's gotten in trouble for being a little passionate and homer, whatever. But I like him most nights. But he's basically like taunting Evander Kane like he's some kid that just woke the bear, and like, you're lucky you're not dead right now, and twist his head off like a bottle cap.
Yeah, that was the version I heard.
Yeah, that's the one going around. And I'm like, that's bullshit, because you're completely glossing. Like, sure, he maybe got caught up and he didn't see the elbow, but like, you're talking about Evander Kane like he is a juvenile or a second, somebody that's not in his league.
You're talking about Evander Kane like he's the Evander Kane of yesteryear.
Yes.
Of Buffalo's Evander Kane.
Or Winnipeg.
Well, and just the play on its own, if you haven't seen it yet, essentially Kane's still going for the puck, and Chara does the interference thing. Like, he's not making a go for the puck.
Right.
He stops and throws up. The elbow kind of goes up. It doesn't have to go that far with him into Kane, and it's not quite the same thing, but my first reaction was, this is a lot like sort of the Steve Moore, Marcus Naslund hit. It's not exactly the same thing. It's not at the same speed. But anytime you have a guy who's not really, too worried about the guy coming into him because he's not expecting an elbow to the head or whatever, he's going for the puck. And then the defending player in those cases is supposed to also go for the puck. Yeah. Not, basically pile on the guy. And, Kane jumping him seemed warranted to me as much as fighting, especially if there's no calls on the ice. We've talked about this. I don't like fighting, but as long as the NHL lets stuff like that go, you almost have to let it. Like, I'd rather see the NHL punish players appropriately, 100%. But if they're not going to, you kind of got to let the Wild West happen. And I feel bad. I wish Kane had been able to get a couple more in before getting laid out. But good on him for doing it anyway, knowing that that's probably how it's going to end, because he's now, Rick Rippon or whoever that's known for taking on guys twice his size and winning.
But he's also one of the tougher guys in the league.
Oh, yeah.
And I just love that he... And nobody's... I mean, not to say that anybody would take liberties or mess with the Sharks before. But, I mean, if Kane's going to fight Zdeno Chara and go down swinging, like... I don't know. I'm not going to mess with him.
Well, and even with Chara, even if he knows he can win that fight, he's not a guy who typically fights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And throwing the fight into play, well, at least even if he doesn't admit he was in the wrong, it'll make players like him think twice before doing quite the same thing at Kane, because he doesn't want to get knocked out of the game for 5 or 15 minutes. He's maybe not as big a part of the Bruins as he used to be, but he's still probably putting up
still the
decent
same
minutes
size.
every night. He doesn't want to miss any time.
No, but he's still more valuable on the ice.
Yeah, even if you're taking Kane with you, like defensemen, just because there's fewer of them on the team, it hurts a team quite a bit when a guy goes off for 5, 10, 15-minute penalties from the blue line.
Yeah, I agree. My second soapbox discovery was when I decided to look at how Sportsnet kind of promoted or marketed their fights. So like there was a thing against Boston where Zach Hyman hit Charlie McAvoy in the head with like a chicken wing elbow right after having a concussion, and they titled their video, "Zach Hyman lays a questionable hit on Charlie McAvoy and Mac Grzelcyk takes exception." And I'm like, you're the national broadcaster of the National Hockey League. You should be promoting all of this evenly and not, if this doesn't look good for the Leafs, let's not benefit that. Let's kind of clean it up a little. If we don't like Evander Kane, let's shit all over him and make their own spin. It just really annoyed me.
Okay.
But
hey, that's just me. I'm just closing this up here right now.
There's probably some low-level employee running their YouTube account, and you need to lay down more rules. You don't have to fire the guy by any means, but just be like, dude,
come on.
What the hell?
Come on, bud.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I'm tired of watching, and that's the Vancouver Canucks. How about you, Paul?
You're tired of watching the Canucks?
Yeah, how about you?
I mean, they pay me to do it most of the time, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah, well, what about like games at home when you're not making your big bucks and eating your big shrimp cocktails?
He's talking about, what about Sunday afternoon games at 1?
Yeah, I did watch that game.
How much cleaning did you do while the game was going on?
Just his glasses. Is this what I'm seeing?
I did multitask a little. I had the bike out, so I watched some of it on the exercise bike.
Oh, yeah.
That was probably the most focused I was on the game. Yeah, it's not pretty a lot of nights, and that in particular, it was interesting to see the Knights. I hadn't watched a Knights game in a while. I was watching more for that.
What a great hockey team Vegas is, eh?
They've got some threats out there.
They got
no sophomore slump.
They got that Mark Stone kid. If you were here last week, P Mac outlined what a damn good hockey player he was.
Yeah, and he hasn't put up big numbers or anything since getting to Vegas.
But
Ryan did some homework, and what are the stats right now?
He's their leading goal. He's the leading scorer by 19 points right now.
What I did notice,
Ottawa clearly didn't know what they've lost.
Eugene told him to trade the wrong guy.
Eric Brandstrom, the good one.
The good Brandstrom.
Not good Brandstrom.
Hey, Eric.
They got the good Brandstrom.
I have been watching Eric Goodbranson with a with a magnifying glass and a microscope, and I've got a fine-tooth comb out watching him play hockey in Pittsburgh, and he's perfectly fine.
In 2 games or whatever.
In the 2 or 3 games, yeah.
He hasn't looked overly bad. I feel like that's more what I've seen out of Eric Goodbranson.
On the good...
Not so bad, Brandstrom. Anyway. What were the Knights anyway? Yeah, Stone, even though he hasn't put up the numbers, with that line of Stasny and Pacioretty, he's just buzzing the net, just making a lot of space for his line mates out there, and I think that'll go a long way in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they're looking really good right now.
Are they in it to win it this year?
I'd say so.
As much as, a lot of teams.
Anyone else.
In the West, at least.
A little more than the Canucks, I'd give you that. But
well, especially, they've given up a lot of young assets because they realized last year
Yeah.
We've got a good team now.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to make the decision. Are you going to try to build for like a crazy good Tampa Bay Lightning style roster 6 or 7 years from now? Like ideally most expansion teams in the past would have been trying to target. They were like, no, let's try to win now. And they've been building very good teams, but it may eventually lead to, granted, they'll get 5 years, good years probably, before they see a dip when some of these big contracts come back to bite them when the guys are getting older.
Before
Marc-Andre Fleury leaves.
Well, Marc-Andre Fleury is at an age right now where you're not 100% sure. Goalies could drop off suddenly. I'm not anticipating that.
However,
but
that has
just don't
been
know.
his entire career.
yeah,
Just dropping off?
Let's just
No,
hope he's
you being unsure when the drop off is coming.
he's playing good tonight. We don't know what he'll do 2 days from now, but let's worry about tonight.
Well, and you wanted to talk about how much he's been playing, right, Ryan?
He's been playing a lot. He's got back-to-back shutouts in the last 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, I don't know who their backup is. Is it
Malcolm Subban.
Who I don't know how often he's playing, but it seems like Fleury's got one hell of a workload lately.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is because, from what I've heard, a lot of folks are saying Malcolm Subban just hasn't been up to snuff this season.
Mm-hmm.
I know his save percentage is, it's over 900. That's
Okay.
the stat you kind of look at, but it's like 907, I believe, right now.
That's Markstrom numbers.
And then his goals against, which I know isn't a fair judgment depending on the team in front of you, but it's just short of 3. I think it's 295 right now. So numbers aren't outstanding, and then the scouting report has been that he's been very average at best, if not having a poor season after last year, looking okay.
Marc-Andre Fleury is 34 years old, and he does have 29 wins in the season, and he has 8 shutouts, and most of them seem to always come against the Canucks.
Mm-hmm.
But he's 34 years old, and he's getting the workload, and as good as the Golden Knights are, they're really good thanks to their goalie, and
Right.
starting to notice a bit of an alarming trend here. Should we be a little concerned?
Well, last week I tried to bring up, and I don't know how seriously you guys took me about Fleury in the past having some issues in
A flurry
Pittsburgh.
of injuries?
Just going into the playoffs and having backups steal his job because he wasn't winning games for the Penguins.
There's no backup to steal.
Well, there weren't really backups back then either. Thomas Vokoun wasn't looking that great.
Yeah, but he's looked really good when he had Matt Murray to steal jobs from him.
That's the thing. And this year he's looking to maybe play the most games in his career or close to it.
Okay.
The last time he played like as many games as he's on pace for now and had a good playoff was probably 2009 when they won the Stanley Cup.
That was only 10
years ago.
Years ago.
And then when he had workloads like this through the next 6 years or so,
Right.
those are the years where he looked really good in the regular season and then dropped off come playoff time. My concern would be you could get a similar performance this year because those Penguins teams were great. It wasn't like he was having to carry these teams in the playoffs.
Yeah.
He was like the weak spot on those teams.
Winning in spite of Marc-Andre Fleury.
Don't tell the Golden Knights.
Except they weren't winning for that stretch between cups and stuff as often.
Yeah, the James Neal concussion cups. Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's going to happen this year, but it would be a red flag to me, and it would have been at the trade deadline that if you aren't happy with Malcolm Subban, it'd be worth giving up some assets to pick up another goalie
But
to spot him at the end of the year here at the very least.
I mean, we were kind of gushing about the Knights last week when you brought up that they have the best goaltending and a very good top 6.
Do you want to throw away that being the best goaltending team in the West?
I don't think this team is very good if you got Malcolm Subban playing every night with Manny Lagassi on the.
No.
It wasn't Manny Legacy. It was another legacy.
But I at least pronounced
Malcolm
the.
Subban isn't going to take the net in the playoffs and run with it a la Matt Murray either. I mean...
He could, but the odds are against him. I'll say that much.
He could do a lot of things. He could post 82 shutouts in a year. He's not going to.
Brian Elliott's been looking great the last week and a half or so. But yeah, no, that concerned me when I was looking at those numbers. Because when the Canucks were playing the Knights, they're talking about Fleury is, leading the league in this and leading the league in that. And I'm like, that is impressive and it's great. At his age, he shouldn't be you should be saving some of that for the playoffs.
Here comes a 3. They go to overtime 3-on-3. His groin explodes on a 2-for-1. on a
Game
2-on-1
82.
on game 82. Oh, here's a little juicy tidbit here about our Columbus Blue Jackets, who are a little slumpy. They went from a 67% chance to make the playoffs, and then they lost to the Winnipeg Jets on Sunday night, 5-2. Blake Wheeler, 4 goals.
Yeah.
The Jackets have a 53.2% chance to make the playoffs right now. So things are not all according to plan in Lumbus, but there is a very spicy little tidbit here, and that's game 82 of the regular season takes place in Ottawa. Columbus Blue Jackets, Ottawa Senators, last game of the regular season.
Of course it does.
It reminds me of when Marc Crawford's job was on the line in Dallas when they limped into the playoffs, and I forget when, I might have been 2010 or 2011. He's coaching Dallas. It's like, you got to win one game and you're in the playoffs, and they played the Minnesota Wild, who were terrible and lost, and Crow was promptly fired. So I'm starting to look at what they're going for a riverboat gamble, which I respect in Lumbus. But if
it comes down to one game,
if they don't make the playoffs, nobody's gonna stay there.
I don't know who to cheer for in that.
They're gonna fire Torts. How
satisfying would that be for the Ottawa Senators?
It would be incredible.
Plus, that win would help them not finish last, and they really don't want to finish last and let that pick go to Colorado.
And with that 2 points in regulation win for the Ottawa Senators, the 31st overall team, the Vancouver Canucks, and all of Canada is celebrating.
There's still a lottery, isn't there?
Yeah, but we get the best odds. Let's just show the envelope.
Canucks have finished second last and picked 5th before.
We know Bo's gonna get on some soapbox, and we gotta finish strong with our pal Quinn Hughes.
Ottawa is a team, though. Yeah, if it came down to it at the end of the year, they're playing for just nothing. They don't care, and Columbus will be all nerves going into the game. And they've got, Craig Anderson's the type of guy. 1 out of 6 or 7 games, he'll be lights out. Like, he's still a very good goalie, even if he's behind a bad team.
It's contract here too.
He could go into that game and just shut out,
I want to
watch Blue Jackets.
That's going to be destination
it's not
programming.
Impossible to imagine. As bad as that team is.
Oh yeah, that'll be Sunday on CBC.
Yeah, I don't want to It's been 4 games in Lumbus, and there's some big changes. You basically have a completely new top line, a second line with the Zingle and the Duchesne Eister. But they're 2 points out of the wild card, and they've had some bad, some bad losses.
Right.
But so have the Canucks.
It's just been a week though that they've been looking.
But they're more than 2 points out of.
They're 46. They went from 5. 1.
They went from 5 behind the Dallas Stars to
46.
When I said it's only been a week, by the way, that was Columbus, not Vancouver. I'm not.
It's been at least a month for the Canucks.
Well, they won that game.
The longest week ever.
They won a game against the Ducks. They shut them out. Everything was going to be hunky dory, and maybe they got something. Nope, they got nothing.
We've talked about this all year, though. When they've been fairly healthy. They look like they're a team that can compete, but there's no depth there. So as soon as you're missing more than a body or two, you're just plugging holes with a lot of guys that shouldn't be in the NHL.
Ashton Sautner.
Sautner hasn't been bad, but he's...
They are not built for 4 rounds in the playoffs.
You want me to go to the West Final with Sautner?
Yeah, you should not have Sautner and Luke Shen and Alex Biega
and
on your
Pouliot.
defensive line. Well, Pouliot's been sitting. I've been happy to see Pouliot probably should be in ahead of depth-wise Shen and Sautner, but they've been playing. They've been performing better than Pouliot, and Pouliot's been sitting, and they've gotten the ice time. And I like to see that being done in the franchise as opposed to just having these guys given a spot, even if they're not performing as well as expected or as they should, or even somewhat respectable.
I made this observation on the Pucks and Net Twitter this morning, where I feel like it's Groundhog Day. 3 years ago, it's early March, the seasons are right off, And we're getting a little excited about an NCAA prospect that's going to come in and play 10 games and burn the first year of his 3-year entry-level deal off, Brock Besser. And then last year, the Canucks are written off in the first couple of days of March, if not much sooner, earlier than that. And and the only thing we have to look forward to is an NCAA prospect with some buzz come in and burn the first year off of his 3-year entry-level contract in Adam Gaudette.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, the Canucks have been written off in the first 4 days. First day of 2 days of.
It's the fourth day, but yeah.
Yeah, they were written off yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday. On the third day, the third month.
Of the third-ish plus 16th year. On the third day of the third month, the third year of redundancy, of repetitive nature, the Canucks fans write off the team, and their only little exciting thing to follow is an NCAA prospect with some buzz to come in and burn a year off his entry-level contract.
You're really pumped about Jack Rathbone, aren't you?
Hell yeah. I hear he's killing it in Maine. And I remember a wise man on a podcast last week. He's got an unusual name. It's a letter and then a space and then part of a last name. And he was coming in and he was saying it's very hard to judge hockey players when they play against boys and then they go to the NHL and play against the best in the world. I think that was P Mac.
How big is Jack Rathbone, though? Because I feel like a lot of the Canucks
We're not talking about Jack Rathbone.
A lot of the Canucks college prospects are tiny guys.
Well, this one's even smaller.
So isn't it the opposite of what I was saying before?
All I know is
a pocket-sized team.
he is a pocket. We have a pocket-sized Quinn Hughes. And
Quinn Hughes is a tiny guy. So is...
I don't care about his size.
You don't care about Madden? No. Okay.
All I care about is we are in an NHL where we need to squeeze every little bit out of players' entry-level contracts like the Toronto Maple Leafs are doing.
Yeah.
We also have an NHL where there's an expansion draft coming up. And there's protection, you have to protect a certain amount of players.
Okay.
And just throwing guys in here and burning off an entire year of their deal just to see what we got, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And the opposite thing is the same thing is happening with the Toronto Blue Jays right now. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is not going to start with the Blue Jays until after April 15th. Okay. So that way he only plays 90-something games, and they get an extra year of protection on his initial contract. And the sports world is praising this for just that's so smart. You have a Vancouver Canucks roster that's, you want Quinn Hughes to be in the lineup. You want him to, and he is supposed to be a game-changing defenseman and an integral part of your team. You would want to have him at that league minimum as long as humanly possible. So to have him come in and play 9 games for a basement team that you want to finish 31st overall, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
The counter argument to that, NCAA players have this weird loophole where they can leave and either re-enter the draft or just sign with whoever I guess they just sign with whoever they want at that point.
Yeah, we had that fear with Brock Besser. It's the Jimmy Vesey fear.
And it happens more often. It's not the usual way things happen.
Right.
But it happens more often than you think.
Mm-hmm.
There's usually 1 or 2 guys a year that pull this.
Yeah.
And so if a guy wants to go pro from NCAA, especially a high-profile guy, you kind of just let them do what they want. Because there's that hanging over you. And if you piss them off and they don't really care one way or the other, and they decide, especially if it's an American kid.
How often do you hear from people who re-enter the draft, though?
It wouldn't be re-enter the draft. They sign... I was thinking more of the players from like overseas. You talk about like Fedorov re-entered the draft. There have been guys like that have done it. This is a different situation, but... College players can kind of hold teams hostage, and a lot of them do get this burn the first year late in the season if they're high profile, because the team's just like, well, we want to lock them down one way or another, and this is kind of, you got to do it. The other side of it, people are worried about with another expansion draft coming up, if Quinn Hughes played a certain number of games, I think it's more than 9. So he may, even if he can join the Canucks with more than 10 games left, they might sit him for a couple So even if they're burning the first year of the contract, you're not having to protect him in the expansion draft. There are little things like that I've heard the team is keeping an eye on, and it's more about
I hope they're
appeasing,
keeping an eye on
you know,
these things.
they're more appeasing the players because, yeah, you don't want to lose. If you really like him, Jack Rathbone, apparently they're high on him, want to give him a shot in the AHL for a bit. You don't want to lose these players and have them sign in Anaheim or wherever for, and you lose them for nothing.
Schultz in Edmonton.
Yep. It's the cost of doing business with NCAA players.
I just think it looks so dumb on a very short-sighted organization.
But everyone has to do it. Very few teams can convince these guys if they want to go pro.
The Tampa Bay Lightning can do anything they want. They just give tough love, and next thing you know, Jonathan Drouin turns into Keita Sherback.
Well, they can also give players tax breaks and then dangle we're the greatest team of all time in front of their players.
Yeah,
See if they can win the cup. But it's
the
a
Canucks,
different
it's the
situation.
opposite.
It's like if Vancouver, you have to play for the Canucks, and your taxes will be 4 times more than what you'd be paying in Florida.
And good luck finding a place to live.
Taxes through the roof. Cost of living, you're going to live in 600 square feet, and you could buy a mansion for that in Dallas right next to Tyler Seguin, who lives in Mike Badano's old house. Come to Vancouver, everybody.
Anyway, it's not as bad as people like to say, the franchise is a bunch of idiots for signing these guys late in the season. With NCAA guys, that's not something that bothers me one bit.
The only way
And these guys are smart because they've got a college education.
That's right.
That 1 year college, Quinn Hughes is smarter than everybody else.
What did he major in? Bowling? Chocolate sciences? Aren't these some of the classes that they offer to NCAA athletes down south? Could be wrong.
I mean, some of them depends on the player.
Comes back with a law degree.
You son of a bitch.
My uncle played a bit of NCAA way back down in the States, and he became a lawyer. So, I mean, some guys use it to their advantage. He probably also knew he wasn't making the NHL.
If I look up Quinn Hughes on where does he go? Michigan?
Quinn Hughes is with, I always get the two Michigans mixed up. He plays for Michigan. But
or Michigan State.
He plays.
He's a Wolverine, isn't he? I'm pretty sure he's a Wolverine.
University of Michigan.
Is that the Wolverines? I don't even know.
Yeah, it is.
I always forget which is which. Okay.
I am
Michigan.
I'm very curious what Quinn Hughes is going to university for. And Paul has doubled down on law school.
I didn't
at
say
age 19 and a half ish, about that.
No, but taking, the required direction in universities so that you can work your way
Paul's
towards.
uncle took.
And I've gone with a major in bowling and a minor in chocolate.
You went with like chocolate fondue.
Chocolate science is his minor. Do we have kinesiology? Who would have thought?
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
That's actually beneficial to an athlete.
Yeah, especially one coming to the Canucks, based on the.
Don't worry, I'll take care of those injuries.
Yeah, I got. Don't worry, I will. I know what I'm doing here.
He's gonna work part time for Roger Takahashi, and he'll be able to afford a 800 square foot bedroom or apartment instead of 600.
So not only is he playing on the third line, he's also the trainer.
He's got 2 jobs. Typical millennial in Vancouver.
And then Brian Burke's gonna call him an entitled millennial. He thinks you can have a job and a part-time job on the side. Who does he think he is?
Not devote enough time to the team.
I'd drive him to the airport. Anyway,
he'll take the Canada line because he doesn't own a car. Guess he's a millennial in Vancouver. Here's
okay.
Before we go on to questions, here's an uplifting stat. One of my favorite stats in the league. Paul, do you know what it is?
What are we? What? Sorry.
It's a Canucks stat. I'm just wondering if you what do you think?
Games remaining.
Oh, is that what you're using your advent calendar for?
That's our favorite Vancouver Canucks stat. Games remaining 6. Here we go.
Summer begins as soon as the season is over.
Here I've noticed, as soon as the days start getting longer is when the Canucks games become less meaningful.
I know, but then you start concentrating on the other teams.
Yeah, you're like, God, Austin Matthews and this beautiful sunlight. God.
It's Sunday night. I was paying real hard attention to that Sharks Blackhawks game.
Wow, playoff implications on the line there, Geeta. Elias Pettersson, who do you think he should still win Calder? He's still leading rookies, isn't he?
Yeah, there's some good rookies. You'd think he'd probably still be the front runner. I don't know who else you want to throw in there.
Oh, I just wanted to say that he is still leading the NHL in shooting percentage.
He should shoot more.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
Or he maybe not. Maybe he's shooting the right amount. Although he's not shooting lately because he's got about 2 assists in the last, month and a half, it seems like.
Well, you know what Michael Scott would tell you that Wayne Gretzky would tell you?
What's that?
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
That's true. But I've also realized that opposing teams know that if we just stand and make a wall around Petey, nobody's going to score any goals and nobody's going to shoot the puck.
Yeah. No, I'm really hoping Brock Besser looks like a guy that needs a summer of proper, training.
Right.
Finally get this injury behind him. If you want to call it the sophomore slump, you can. But I honestly think he just hasn't been the same since the injury, and I hope it's just a matter of taking a summer to prepare for an NHL season.
His wrist is still taped up. It's been taped up all year. It's wild.
So, yeah, you hope over the summer he can come back because he just hasn't been as dangerous as you'd expect him to be. He's still been good. But yeah, you need some more guns out on the ice to draw some of the attention away from Elias Pettersson.
Yes. But Elias Pettersson, he's shooting at 22.8%. Right behind him is Braden Point. Pretty good guy, 22.5%. And Leon Draisaitl is third, also tied with 22.5%. And Leon Draisaitl just scored his 40th goal of the year, which is shocking for those Oilers.
Can I throw out another, not a very specific stat, but just a kudos stat to a Canuck? I was looking at NHL goalie stats.
Yeah.
Because Jacob Markstrom has been fantastic lately, especially with the team playing the way they've been playing, with the injuries to the roster in front of him, to see him seemingly just continue to get better. Like they lost 3-0 against Vegas. He looked amazing. He looked outstanding.
He looks like Carey Price when he gets hot. Well, not to that level, but like when you're like, okay, well, Carey's fine. We got Carey back there. He just looks like he's everywhere he needs to be. The only problem is they give up 55 shots a game and he loses 3-0.
And they don't score any goals. Like it doesn't matter how good Jacob Markstrom is if the Canucks don't score any goals.
That's the old Montreal Canadiens plan. We'll just win 1-0. We got Carey Price in there.
But you can't win 1-0 if you're scoring no goals. But
then just go to the shootout.
All right. You still have to score in the shootout once.
Oh shit, you're right. Damn it. Okay, let's go back to the drawing boards here.
The stat,
unless they change the rules.
Yeah, 0-0 ties. Canucks make the playoffs.
I was talking about the Tortorella rule change.
Oh, where somebody just dies?
Yeah.
Paul, keep going.
I don't even know what that.
Did we not talk about that? I saw it somewhere on the rundown.
No, but this is a good question, and we'll bring it up. Nathan Yakic, he asks, do you agree with Tort's idea that we should have overtime until a team dies? That's Tort's quote in the regulation.
So just what they do in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoever first one to get fatally dehydrated, they lose. Not fatally, but just really tired.
Those Blue Jacket games are never going to end.
They're just gonna
just bring back ties. I don't care.
In the playoffs.
Not in the playoffs. In the regular season. They already play until they die in the playoffs, Ryan. But yeah, the stat I was trying to bring up before. Jacob Markstrom, as far as goalies on teams that aren't in the playoffs right now, is the third best save percentage. And it just tells you, like, they're right up there with all the top goalies in the league. Mm-hmm. And those players, goalies, are playing behind much better teams than a lot of these other guys. And it says something when you look at the Markstroms and John Gibsons of the league that are still putting up numbers behind teams that are definitely a step behind most of their competition.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I just want to chime in. Quentin Hughes majoring in sports management, School of Kinesiology. So he's gonna
be the future GM of the Vancouver Canucks.
Or an interim head coach.
All of the above.
Remember what happened to that young, exciting offensive defenseman that played for the Canucks in the 1980s? Jim Benning. Now he's the GM. So Quinn Hughes, you heard it here, folks. Here first, folks. He's the next Jim
Benning's
Benning.
gonna mentor him.
I can't do a Jimbo voice right now. Let me show you how you get the Chicago mix in the intermission here. Oh, I don't think I should be eating this. Yeah, you're probably right. You got to
Why
be in
does
good
Quinn
shape.
Hughes sound like Marc Crawford?
How old? Because he's like 14 years old. He's
Mr. Benning.
Mr. Benning. Brr. What were
Anyway.
you thinking of there, coaching the Canadians?
I think they did have Chicago mix. They definitely had it recently. I think it was the night that the Canucks beat the Ducks, shut them out. So they'll probably have Chicago mix the rest of the season up in the media management box.
That's Quinn Hughes' box.
You don't want to mess with luck like that.
Okay, I got a very good question here that we're gonna
Okay.
get to. There's a scene from The Office, and I'm gonna play the clip, but it revolves around two types of pizza places. One is very mediocre, but the pie is very affordable. The other one, it's much better, but the pie is more expensive. So I've got this queued up, and I will play this, and then I'll read the question. Oh, shit.
News.
We get to go home.
Guess who just ordered from your favorite pizza place, Alfredo?
Wait. Alfredo's Pizza Cafe? Or Pizza by Alfredo?
Same thing.
No.
All right. You know what? I don't understand when you all talk at the same time.
Oscar, talk to him.
Michael, there's a very big difference between these two pizza places, both in quality of ingredients and in overall taste. Which one did you order from?
Pizza by Alfredo. All right. You know what? Okay. What is better? A medium amount of good pizza or all you can eat a pretty good pizza?
A medium amount of good pizza. Oh, no, it's bad. It's real bad. It's like eating a hot circle of garbage.
So when I was listening to that, it made me think of when, back in the day, the trend for the Canucks was we couldn't get Sergei, but we got Fedor or we got Steve Correa. It kind of made me think of that.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, now the question
Sean
is...
Pronger?
The question comes from JB, and he goes, if you had to name one Canuck to be pizza by Alfredo, the bad pizza that's you can get all you can eat, and one Canuck to be Alfredo's Pizza Cafe, which is good but pricey, who would it be? This matters in both quality of plays and overall flavor. And based on what we talked about earlier, I mean, Jacob Markstrom could definitely be Alfredo's Pizza Cafe.
Yeah, it's a weird question. I feel like I need to come up with some sort of comical... You can't just go, Elias Pettersson is... I'd rather have a medium amount of Elias Pettersson than a lot of...
Brandon Sutter.
Sure.
There you go. There's the answer.
Boom, hit the nail on the
head. A lot
head.
of Derek Pouliot.
Well, I would just say that Alfredo's Pizza Cafe is Jacob Markstrom, but he's their only option, so you can get him. And his contract is so affordable.
And we'll take a medium amount.
Well, you're getting a lot of him, though, this season.
Yeah,
it's
so...
just, everything being served with the good pizza is just not looking as good right now.
Yeah,
it's
but
like Jell-O salad.
when you dance Demko around, you're like, he's a hot circle of garbage.
It kind of reminds me of...
Demko's played 2 games. The second one, he's coming back from injury, only being thrown in there because Markstrom is exhausted. And everyone's like, ugh, Demko. I was on Twitter the other day.
He's done.
And somebody tweeted something.
This was me.
No, it wasn't. Maybe I did see a lot of people talking about this.
Demko is northern, an upstate New York for bust, because I think I tweeted that.
Okay.
No, I didn't.
But there was somebody put out there like, well, now that we know Markstrom is like a legitimate number 1, what do we do? Sell high on Markstrom, trade Demko, or trade DiPietro? Because obviously, as soon as one goalie has established himself, you need to get rid of one of your other goalies right away.
That works really well in this city.
It's worked very well, Geeta.
That's how we ended up with Markstrom as number 1. You're like, we had all these goalies, and now we have Markstrom.
And he got thrust into the starter's job before he was ready. and just now is getting to the point where he's ready, even though he's a bit of a late bloomer, I'll admit that much. But yeah, ideally an NHL team should have their first, their Markstrom guy, have the guy they hope is even better than that guy as the backup or the starter in the minors. That's Thatcher Demko. And then you want someone else loaded that you've drafted that could be the backup for the Demko guy, and that's DiPietro.
Yeah.
As long as they pair DiPietro with some sort of vet next year down on the farm, whether it's Bachman or one of these other dudes they've signed in the last 2 months.
But not Malcolm Subban.
Now that they've got more than enough veteran minor league goalies, that's where you want to be. And if you trade one of them, then you're going to have a deficit you've got to fill. Right now, goaltending is the only thing Vancouver has going for them. Don't trade the one place you're not in a position of strength. You've got the bare minimum of what you need to be good in the NHL.
Yeah.
Work on the other stuff. Anyway, that worked me up that there were like so many people being like, yeah, we should trade Demko. And I'm just, I know it's Twitter, but
I love it.
Seriously, people.
Seriously. You know who's a bit of a pizza by Alfredo, and that they're kind of bad, or like they're like, like a bit of a Jay Beagle. Mm-hmm. We got a player that just won the Stanley Cup. Oh, it's Jay Beagle.
Hey, Tanner Pearson also has a Stanley Cup.
He's another pizza by Alfredo.
Yeah, Tanner Pearson. I don't know. Maybe more Ryan Spooner. He feels a lot like you could look at like Sven Baertschi and Ryan Spooner. It's like, well, we got a medium amount of Sven Baertschi. We didn't even get that. We got a very small amount of Sven Baertschi.
And we got a lot of Ryan Spooner.
We got a lot of Ryan Spooner, it looks like. I'd still rather have a medium amount of Sven Baertschi. To be fair, though, people were going off about, Sam Gagne's got, 3 goals in his first handful of games with Edmonton?
Yeah, when you play the Blue Jackets, you're going to light them up.
They won that trade, but Ryan Spooner's quietly kept pace. They're all assists as opposed to goals, but points-wise, he's kept pace with Sam Gagne. Anyway, so I don't want to... Spooner's been better than I expected.
Yeah.
He's been put up...
And you'd rather be in Vancouver than Edmonton.
There's that, too.
Alpha Phi Jake asks, what kind of coverage can we expect from the podcasters to cover the PON Fantasy Hockey League with only one member in the playoffs?
It's like CBC when the Leafs don't make the playoffs.
We now go live to Nesson coverage of the Bruins playing the New Jersey Devils in round 1. We'll see you in the Stanley Cup final. It's on, but it doesn't really exist.
But when P Mac's team is playing, all eyes are focused.
I guess
on
so.
the one Canadian team
everybody
that made the playoffs.
gets on board. You were the Ottawa Senators.
Calm down, guys. I do look like the Senators, but the Senators of a couple of years ago.
You're kind of high on
just before they explode.
You're a little smug. Yeah, we got Erik Karlsson. Yeah, we do.
I wish I had Erik Karlsson on my blue line.
Yeah, we got Erik Karlsson and Mike Hoffman.
I just finally gave up on Cam Talbot before the playoffs. I've been holding on to him, hoping he'd steal the job in Philadelphia, and
Gritty stole the job.
Elliott's probably going to be the backup now, and Cam Talbot will sit in the press box.
All right.
So many comparables if you're the Edmonton Oilers.
Anyway.
Ryan did pass Geeta, though, in the standings on the last day of the season.
My devious plot, which was put into my head
in the foot.
by Paul, and I said that's exactly what I'm doing, was to beat Geeta.
Why do you conspire with him against me?
With Jason Spezza on my team.
I probably would have done fine had I just kept him.
Anyway, we're sorry, folks. This is the most fantasy hockey talk we've ever had on the show, and that is rule 1. So,
but Jake asked for it. The mule.
There you go.
We'll wrap up the show here, and just want to thank you all for listening. Crap, I got to bring up the soundboard again. That soundboard is brought to you by Pucks on It Patreon backer Chris Schneider. So make sure you follow us on Twitter at PucksOnNetCA or PucksOnNetCa. And if you want to support the show monetarily, you can head over to patreon.com/pucksonnet, where you can pledge a couple of bucks. And you get instant access to all our bonus content. We're about due for a bonus episode. So, P Mac, I don't know what your Friday's looking like. or your next Friday.
We'll figure something out.
You know what it means. Here's what happens. Paul and I get some lunch on the company dime, and then we banter.
Well, on the 15th, the Devils are in town, so definitely not. Well, maybe before the Devils game.
Hey, you never know. Might be a half bad idea. I kind of like that. Little David Putty special. But you can listen to all these bonus episodes where Paul and I yammer for a very long time over at patreon.com/pucksonnet. Geeta's usually at work.
Some of us work on Fridays.
You should be in the bathroom phoning in on your little headset. I don't agree with the placement of Sam Gagne on the power play in Edmonton. What's going on in that stall? Nothing. Patreon.com/pucksonnet. Get instant access to all our bonus content. Twitter. We got a Facebook page. Oh, if you don't want to give us any money, you gotta
rate and review.
Please go to our Apple Podcast page and give us a 5-star rating and a positive review, because that helps us out. Or just subscribe wherever you get podcasts from. Head on over to pucksonnet.ca for all your Jiminy Jazz. And we're going to go into 5 minutes for paying, because that's what we do after this. I don't have a clever outro. Do you, Paul?
Well, this is for people that pay too, so...
No, he's trying to wrap up the unpaid part.
Yeah, this is the free show.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I hope you paid money, otherwise it's just going to go dead right now. You guys both assume that I'm not paying attention. Paul, you can't say that. No, I had a thing to end the show on.
What did you have to end the show on?
He had a clever zinger in the chamber.
Where'd it go?
Used it.
Oh.
It was like when he's like...
I was not paying attention.